Candace.
And I'm John.
And this is Comicsplaining.
The one without Ripley.
The show where Ripley is not here.
Yes, Ripley is gone. Not forever. This is
No, we killed them. We buried them in the backyard. They will not be back.
This is news to me, and I was not involved in any...
You were there.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you were.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't there, I promise.
You are culpable.
What are you talking about? We were playing a game based on Homestuck. We were not killing a person.
How dare you say that word on my good Christian podcast?
Yes, we were doing something worse. Worse than murder.
Ripley's not feeling very well. So they excuse themselves and they're gonna go hang out in the room and hopefully feel a little better. But thankfully we have John now, so we don't need all three of us.
So now it's not just weirdly awkward you talking to yourself about comics, trying to make yourself laugh. Which,
yeah.
Oh boy, that would not be that fun.
No, it's difficult.
I listen to plenty of scripted solo podcasts, but
it's not really the same.
No. I used to listen to one podcast that was two bros talking about history, and it was a fun podcast, but when one of them hung up his hat, the other one could not make a go of it.
Yeah.
Because the whole format relied on the back and forth, and...
Right. Comedy is just easier when you have someone to bounce off of.
Yeah, you can't really do that on your own.
Right.
Why do you think the McElroys are three brothers?
Well, because that's the order they were born in.
Because their father had three sons.
Yes,
that's why there are three brothers.
That's true. Objective fact, yes.
Sometimes you just have children.
That's true. In light of that, before we get started, I wanted to say that for the last few Thor episodes, I've been making pretty short work of these Silver Age issues.
They're just like that.
While Stan the Man has been making short work of your patience. To fill out the time and also prevent my two beautiful co-hosts from shuffling off this mortal coil, I'm going to be doing my absolute best to squeeze out 3 issues of Thor per episode. We are currently on number 166, and the first issue with Jerry Conway is number 193, which means that if I manage to do this consistently, we've got about 9 episodes of Stan left.
Ooh, we're going to have to tell Ripley that.
Unfortunately, this is going to mess up the reading order that I had laid out, and we're going to end up with some weird sets of comics. We're going to have quite a few episodes like the last one, where we read the first issue of a 2 or 3 part story at the end. This might feel weird, but I'm making it my personal mission to push us through these last 27 issues of Stan, no matter what it takes.
I mean, he was at the end of his run as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he started out okay. But he's going over the same things. He doesn't... Over
and over again.
He keeps on telling the same... I get that a lot of superhero stories are often the same story over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But they're not usually the same story over and over and over again by the same writer within a year of himself.
Within months of himself.
Yes. The same story beats. The same endings. They always go the same way.
Yeah, and we've gotten to the point where even Ripley is annoyed by it, so I'm just gonna try to push us through.
Stan Lee, I get it, you were a legend by this point. You'd been working there for 30 years, but that's your problem.
So, with that in mind, would my lovely assistant please tell us what happened last time?
I have no earthly idea.
You don't even know where to start?
No, I was going to lean on Ripley for that information, and unfortunately, Ripley isn't here, and I have had quite the week.
Okay, well, I will give you a hint to start you off. Thor was returning to Earth after fighting Galactus because Sif went to go do something, but didn't come back.
Did Sif get fridged?
No.
Oh, She
didn't get fridged.
Not fridged, but she got a halfway between... Damseled. Let's call it that.
So, he went to go find Sif.
Then he went into the future.
Yes, there you go. Why did he go into the future?
Because there was a big field, like an energy field, and he got stolen?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then he beat up the guys there.
Uh-huh.
And freed Sif, who got to fight the guys there.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a guy named him.
Nope, before that. Pluto was there.
Oh, Pluto was there.
This whole future with the nuclear winter and the human mutates was all part of Pluto's plan for revenge on Thor.
And then he took his mutates and they fought the American army.
Yes, they did.
The American army got a good tussle with mutates.
From the future.
From the future. Oh, God. What next? The ghost of Christmas Past from the future?
And then Zeus showed up and was like, hey, Pluto, stop doing that.
And he stopped doing that, and the end.
Solved the whole problem.
Yeah, which was like, it was very, Odin comes down and stops the problem. This time it was Zeus.
Yeah.
Which is different from when Odin does it.
Completely, entirely different.
Yes.
And then after that...
They went back in because they felt something.
Right, it was in the nuclear research facility, which Pluto had stolen.
There was a guy.
There was a guy.
A dude.
Yeah.
Called him.
Yeah.
Who is just called him.
Yep,
for
that's
some
his
reason.
name.
You know, the only him I can think of is from the Powerpuff Girls.
That's exactly what I think every single time.
Who is definitely not Satan.
No, definitely not.
No, they wouldn't put Satan in a children's cartoon. So him was horny for Sif.
Yeah.
And Thor was like, no. And him was like, but what about yes? And then Thor was like, I punch you for her honor.
Yeah, more or less.
And then him is very strong.
Well, yeah. And him kidnapped Sif as well and went to a different world, and then Thor
teleported there because
he does that.
Because he can do that, and Stan remembered that he can do that. So why they left, I don't know.
Baldur is also there.
Oh yeah, but wasn't...
Because he was escaping his boner.
Baldur is trying to evade horny jail. Because now he actually does love what's-her-face.
Carnilla,
yes. He does love her, and he hates that. And if he just learned to masturbate, his problem would go away. For God's sake. Odin, what are you teaching your sons?
Thor and Baldur chase after him.
Yes, they
do. To go rescue Sif.
Chase after him, and I'm still wondering what Odin is teaching his sons.
But they didn't have a chance to rescue her because Carnilla's hag tried to snatch Baldur. And Thor had to stop to go save him, and while he was doing that, him got away again.
No. Bad. You can't say that Thor went to save him.
Okay, Thor went to save Baldur.
Because this isn't your fault. This is because Stan decided to have a character just call himself him.
Yeah.
Which is bad. Stan.
I mean, I could call him Adam Warlock, even though he doesn't go by that name yet.
But is he gonna go by that name for, like...
I have no idea. I have no clue.
I know nothing about Adam Warlock.
I know next to nothing about Adam Warlock. All I know about Adam Warlock is that one time he kidnapped Sif.
Well, hey, I can also say that the thing I know about Adam Warlock is one time he went by him and kidnapped Sif.
Also, he has a regenerative cocoon.
Uh-huh. He was living in a nuclear facility.
He also dated Gamora. I know that.
Did he?
Yes.
Huh.
That's where Gamora is actually from.
Peter Quill, you are doing way too well for yourself. I mean, Gamora, Kitty Pryde.
Pulling above his weight class.
Yeah. Guy's too skeevy to get girls that good.
So, him got away. That's where we left off.
And that's a horrible way to call it. Him got away. I speak English good.
It's fine.
Very good.
Capital H him.
Yes.
Now that we know that.
It's an odd-looking cover, because what's up with Thor's missing hand?
It's behind him, it's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and begin with Thor number 166 from May of 1969.
Nice.
Okay, I was waiting for it. Written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, inked by Vince Colletta, and lettered by Sam Rosen.
Are those names basically going to stay the same until Stan leaves?
No.
Really?
Jack is gonna leave first, actually.
Oh, Jack was done.
Oh yeah, Jack was done.
I know Stan was burning bridges by this point. His relationship with some of the other people at the company was not good.
I mean, I haven't looked into it, but, like, I wouldn't assume it's that so much as just Jack that didn't want to do Thor anymore.
Fair. Jack was tired of having his art ruined.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I've been able to pick that up, that Jack Kirby gets his art ruined by the colorist every time.
Not the colorist, the inker.
Oh, the inker.
So, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, let's see him. Yes. Yes. Yes!
Thor is raging, spitting oaths about how he will find and destroy him, and all the vengeance he will wreak, and all the things he will destroy in order to get to him, and yada yada yada.
And we really need to see Mjolnir in
Oh,
this
yes.
picture. You know, when you read the complete Mjolnir reading order, you need to see things like this panel, because
Obviously.
otherwise how do you know you're reading the complete Mjolnir
Obviously.
reading order?
Duh. Balder approaches and tries to calm him down because he's liable to pop an aneurysm at this rate.
He'll be fine.
However, even the good and pure Disney prince cannot reach him, as Thor simply swats him away.
Woo-hoo.
He doesn't want to hear about anything other than sweet, sweet revenge.
Wow, he just lit the ground on fire.
And in his furor, he begins to tear up the terrain while screaming and having quite the temper tantrum.
He's screaming the word revenge now.
Oh yeah.
Revenge! Revenge!
Oh yeah. Finally, he calls Balder to his side and begins to whirl his hammer to transport them elsewhere. Balder briefly pleads with his friend. He's worried that the Thunder God has succumbed to the warrior madness, though he concedes that if so, he's beyond all reason now. So you guys have been doing it a lot lately, so it's my turn for a nerdy tangent. The warrior madness is a concept that we will revisit several times in Thor comics, and it's not difficult to see why. Clearly, this is Stan's way of referencing to the concept of the berserker.
Oh yeah, berserkers!
Which is an element of Old Norse folklore. A berserker, in the traditional sense, is a warrior who can go into some kind of primal rage state, where they become completely invincible and kill everything around them in a blind fury. Otherwise known as Ripley's Tuesday Commute.
Do we know anything about berserkers in reality?
Well, I'm about to tell you.
Ooh.
Typically, berserkers also go into battle with no armor or maybe even partially naked because their rage makes them invulnerable. This myth is obviously a bit larger than life, but something fun about it is that it actually has some basis in reality. There were cults of hunters in ancient Germanic lands, like 100 AD, who wore the skins of their prey to use their spirits in battle, and they were divided into 3 groups. Now, I have to state for the record, one of these groups has less evidence for it.
Is this stuff the Romans wrote down? You say 100 AD, that's usually stuff the Romans wrote down.
Well, so there was the boar, the wolf, and the bear. So there are carvings in Rome of Trajan or Trajan.
Trajan? Do you mean Trajan?
Is that his name?
Let me see.
Trajan.
Yeah, that's Trajan.
Okay.
Oh my, Trajan.
I don't know.
No. There are no silent. There are no.
Well, that's why I was asking. I didn't bother to look it up because I didn't care that much.
He's just one of the most important Roman emperors.
So there are carvings in Rome of Trajan's conquest of Dacia that depict Germanic warriors wearing wolf and bear skins. The bear cult is the most prominent. Historically and mythologically, we have the most proof that they existed, which is where the concept of the berserker comes from. The word itself is actually Old Norse for bear shirt, referring to the warriors who wore the bear skins.
And given that we know there is definitely a direct connection between the Germanic faiths of the Germanic peoples beyond the Roman frontier and the Norse belief systems,
well, from what
a century or a millennia or more after this.
Well, yeah, from what I was looking at, it seems like the bear warriors were still around way later.
We actually have recordings of the gods the old German peoples from around then worshipped, and their names are remarkably similar to what the Norse believed.
Wow, shocking.
It's almost as if it's connected.
Almost as if it's connected. So, yeah. Having lost Sif to him, our boy Thor has officially put on his bear shirt.
I'm sorry, I did it again. I pictured him.
That's fine.
From the Powerpuff Girls.
You can picture that him all you want.
I pictured Thor losing to him.
Thus, he uses Mjolnir to follow him, swearing to slay him, which is not something he typically does. Elsewhere, Carnilla is reprimanding Hag for failing to snatch Balder. She changed into a new outfit for this.
Of course she did.
As you do, and it's honestly kind of a look.
It is. Yeah, that is.
The sheer skirt coming out of here.
The fishnet
sleeves, and her cape is like hooked onto her wrists. It's a look.
That is a look, and look at that hair.
The hair is fucking crazy.
How is it staying up?
Magic.
And this poor Hag.
Yeah.
Fun fact, in a lot of those languages, if they can't do the umlauts, I believe they do double vowels.
Yeah.
So, theoretically, that could be hog.
Hog. Yeah.
Not hog. Hag.
I took German. I know how to pronounce an umlaut. The seeress assures her queen that the jig is not up yet. Balder does have feelings for her. It's just that he's more devoted to Asgard at the moment.
You know, just slip into his DMs.
Hag has a plan to change that, as even now, she molds a lump of clay into the shape of our brave Asgardian.
Are we doing a completely different kind of magic that isn't at all related to Norse magic?
Yes.
God damn it. Stan!
I don't think Stan really knows all that much about Norse mythology, despite apparently being obsessed with it.
And I don't think he cares.
Yeah. Thor and Balder reappear on a new world, where Thor says he will find the battle he craves. And Balder says that he's never known Thor to crave battle, which I don't think is true.
That is not true. He doesn't crave slaughter, but he craves battle.
But, you know, I guess he would probably say anything to get his bro to take off that shirt.
That bear shirt.
That bear shirt. As they move through the strange land, Balder continues to make light conversation, at least until he notices that the Odinson has stopped answering.
Did they forget that Thor could just do this at some point?
Yeah, because if you remember last issue, we left on Thor being upset that he wouldn't be able to find him.
And then
this issue, he immediately went to where him was.
Yeah, but I mean after Stan.
After Stan.
Because I feel like Thor's ability to just travel to places...
I think later on, his powers get a lot more ironed out. And a lot of this stuff goes away. Like, in the future, he doesn't time travel.
He doesn't time travel. He can't move faster than light.
Yeah. He's still extremely powerful.
So they actually nerfed him.
But they nerfed him a little bit, yeah.
And they
because some of those powers don't make any fucking sense.
Like how Asgardians are radioactive?
Asgardians emit an aura of free-flowing electrons.
Yes, they're radioactive.
Yeah, you know.
Don't put hear that clicking sound from an Asgardian. We need to put you behind lead walls to protect us. You cause cancer.
Oh, yeah.
You cause cancer, Thor. That's why she had cancer. Not because of all the other stuff, but because she had a relationship with you and all this stuff you emit. Oops.
Balder the Brave calls for a halt, insisting to his golden-haired companion that him only got away because Thor was rescuing lowercase him. And therefore it's his fault, and he should be the one to fight uppercase him. Thor isn't in his right mind enough to even argue with this, instead shouting that he will be the one to go ahead, and that's that.
Or strictly speaking, I say thee never, the cause be mine!
Yes.
Arr. Okay, you pirate.
The Light God continues to try to use logic, because that's clearly worked so far.
Because he's definitely listening.
He says that, driven by the warrior madness, Thor might be easily struck down by a lesser foe, or he might choose to kill in a situation where mercy would be appropriate. However, as he speaks, tree roots burst forth from the ground and begin to wrap themselves around the Asgardian duo.
Considering how fast this happened, this looks more like tentacles than trees.
Yeah. Thor declares that this time he's not going to help Balder because he wants to fight him alone, capital H him, and Balder will just get in the way. Him seems to have the same idea. He telepathically commanded the roots to hold Thor's companion, recognizing that he is not the threat here. Still, he says he would prefer not to hurt anyone.
Uh-huh.
Thor is like, you couldn't hurt me if you tried, spray tan boy, and throws his hammer.
Did it just bounce off of him?
Mjolnir harmlessly bounces off him before returning to its master. Apparently, him is not reading the room, which is fair, I guess, since he was just born a few days ago.
You know, born sexy yesterday, what are you gonna do?
He doesn't get why Thor is so mad, because from his perspective, taking Sif was perfectly reasonable. He was lonely, so he took a companion. Anyone would do the same.
Uh-huh. Anyone.
He even has her safely stored in aerospace.
What?
Where no harm can come to her.
Within my cocoon, I have
completely normal
known
first date things.
Great loneliness, so I have taken a companion. Is that not what you would do?
Aerospace.
Uh-huh.
It's a weird bubble.
This weird bubble. And he knows about his cocoon.
Oh yeah. Of course
he is the weirdest guy.
Why would he not know about his cocoon?
Because he was inside it. Why would he remember? Why would he remember being in it? What was he doing in there?
Seeing Sif so entrapped only stokes the fires of Thor's rage even more. Him is just using her to taunt lowercase him, he says. Well, consider him taunted. Thor strides forward, declaring that he's now going to set aside his hammer and beat capital H him to death with his bare hands.
Oh boy.
Him is fine with this, and ladies and gentlethems, it's finally time to rumble.
Wow.
Let's get ready to rumble! Him immediately gets the upper hand, but Thor comes back swinging, throwing him to the ground and leaping on top of him. The Thunder God pummels his foe mercilessly as someone off-screen yells for him to stop. Him grabs at Thor, but is thrown back once more.
What is this fight?
Crumpled on the ground, he uses telekinesis to hurl boulders at the Asgardian. But Thor dodges easily and continues raining blows onto his most hated enemy.
What is this? I'm getting very little sense of flow in this fight.
Well, that's because I'm kind of...
No, not from you.
I
I'm from the art. Like, the individual panels are fine, but they don't really connect well.
I don't know, it seems pretty coherent to me.
You go from, okay, this kind of flows, but then...
Oh yeah, it doesn't
happened?
show Thor hitting him there.
Thor appears to have hit him, but they don't have enough space to actually show the hit. And then Thor pounces?
Yeah.
And then we go to the next page, and Thor is on top, and then there are...
Thor's on top.
rocks. I'm not really sure how him got back up to re-engage Thor.
It's fine. We don't have time to get caught in the weeds here.
I'm stuck in the weeds. I can't get out.
Worlds away, the royal astrologer has summoned Odin to view this fight on the big screen. Odin asks how the astrologer found Thor.
Is it just me, or is the big screen getting bigger almost every time we watch? See it?
Pretty much. Odin asks how the astrologer found Thor when he was supposed to be looking for Galactus. Apparently, he was just scanning planets at random and happened upon him.
Wait, you're telling me that his Galactus hunt has gotten so lost in the weeds that all he can do is scan random planets? Okay, that's a new hat.
Yeah.
And is that glove is...
I was gonna say, actually, methinks the royal astrologer is having some issues with this project.
Yes. Once you're at the, I'm scanning random planes of reality and planets and whatever, looking for a planet-eating monster.
Desperate. Whatever the case, though, he noticed that something was off and called Odad here to see what was up. The All-Father concurs that something is different about Thor, and he knows exactly what it is. Odin insists that in fair combat, a defeated foe must be offered the chance to surrender, but someone who has been taken by the warrior madness cannot grant this courtesy.
Odin, you're full of shit.
Furthermore, succumbing to the madness is a taboo which incurs a steep fine. A fine which Odin's own son must now pay. See, this doesn't make sense to me because these are Norse gods.
These guys have killed people before.
And if we were talking realistically in terms of, like, Norse mythology, he wouldn't give a shit. But Stan is imposing his own morals on them, so...
So, now we know that Thor has broken a taboo for some reason.
Oh yeah. Him has been beaten so thoroughly and so hard that his regenerative cocoon is forming.
Okay.
But Thor isn't done yet. Despite his rage, however, he finds that he cannot tear open the chrysalis, which swiftly closes over the form of its occupant. It then shoots out rays of blinding light before propelling itself back into the depths of space.
Okay, this is a weird fight.
Thor takes note of these developments, lamenting that his victim has escaped, and it's interesting that he used that word. As he watches, slowly the veil lifts. He feels the onset of a pounding headache, even as it seems a cloud has left his mind. He tries to deny it, but deep down he knows what happened. He feels a cold wash of shame come over him.
Rip.
He allowed the warrior madness to take him, and acted as a rabid animal. There's no recovering from this.
You will have to be punished for your crimes, Thor.
The aerosphere, which was called something different before, gently floats down to the ground, releasing Sif as the power of him fades.
Are you telling me that Stan couldn't remember the name of the thing he created?
Pages ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
We were in the same issue, but he couldn't remember what he called it, and he couldn't check.
No, obviously not.
That would be effort.
Thor rushes to her, relieved to see that she, at least, is safe. Yet the goddess regards him with trepidation. He succumbed to his rage and struck without mercy. She also says again that him didn't know what he was doing.
Stop forgiving him!
Which I might be willing to concede, but I don't think that makes him innocent like she says.
And I don't think she would be the one to think that.
Again, I find this to be pretty weird and gross. Stan is clearly trying to push this narrative that him is a neutral actor who didn't deserve to be attacked, but like he did kidnap her.
And so what, Stan? Are you saying that it's okay to take
I don't want to get stuck in the weeds on this topic, but there was a pretty clear implication about what he was going to do with her.
Yeah, there was a very clear implication of what him's plans were.
So I find it difficult to muster any sympathy for buff Donnie T.
Is that
And I'm comparing him to Donald Trump because he has orange skin and bright yellow hair.
He does. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Not for any other reasons, just that.
I mean, there are definitely other reasons.
Oh, I don't know if that's fair. Adam Warlock isn't really that bad.
So Adam,
once he learns how to be a reasonable person.
So you're telling me he doesn't collect as many women as the Trumpster?
I wouldn't say that, but this is definitely him at his worst, and that's mostly just because this was very early on in his character. But after a moment, Sif embraces Thor, her horror and shock overcome by love. It wasn't Thor who did those things, it was that pesky bear shirt. You need to get rid of that thing, Thor. I keep putting it in the garage, and then I moved back into the closet mysteriously. It's not even a cool shirt, honestly, and it's dry clean only, so you definitely haven't washed it in years.
It probably smells.
Just drop it off at Goodwill, and we can get on with our lives.
No. He's not going to.
He's not going to. Balder appears, having cut his way through his bonds. It doesn't matter whose fault it is, he says, because Thor will have to pay for it either way. We have a new Balder Disney Prince moment, by the way. Thor says, "Most noble friend, thou hast hacked thyself to freedom," and Balder says, "Aye, but know thee, I wouldst be trapped for air, could it but save thee from thy fate."
Are you trying to throw yourself on your sword to save?
He is such a fucking
Balder?
ridiculous.
Balder, are you willing to sacrifice yourself for Thor on this?
Obviously. He's always willing to sacrifice himself for Thor because he's just that good.
Oh my god.
Sif asks what he means by that, and he explains that Thor will be punished for succumbing to the warrior madness, which Thor accepts as he begins to transport them all back to Asgard. Meanwhile, Odin is still obsessing over Galactus. Apparently, he's had his people make a spaceship now.
He has a different hat.
Oh yes, he changes hats between every scene.
He doesn't need a spaceship. I know he doesn't need a spaceship. I have seen the Asgardians attack people in boats.
Yeah, they have boats.
They have attacked space people in boats.
Well, they have a spaceship now, and Odin says that his favorite son will pilot it on some sort of endless journey. Though it pains him, he declares that Thor must pay penance for his madness. Speaking of whom, he and his friends appear in a flash of light somewhere else in the palace. He tells them that he must face judgment alone before walking into the throne room.
The sacrifice. Okay, that's a cover.
It is a cover. So next we're gonna go to Thor number 167 from June of 1969.
Nice.
Not this. If you don't want to do it anymore, I'll stop waiting.
I mean, Ripley's the one who's been keeping up with it. It's easier to follow Ripley's lead.
Written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, inked by Vince Colletta, and lettered by Artie Simek. This cover, since you mentioned it, is also by John Romita Sr. It's a cover.
It's a cover in which Loki wins.
Oh, yeah.
And Thor can do nothing because Loki's taken the stick.
Uh-huh. Inside the throne room, there's an entire drum line for some reason.
I wonder what an Asgardian drumline sounds like.
I don't know.
The place, Asgard, home of the mighty Norse gods. The time, the eternal present. The offering, sheer spellbinding spectacle, such as thine eyes have never beheld.
Odin sits on his throne, already prepared to pass judgment. He has another hat on.
Yes, he does. Is that a hat? Are you sure that's a hat?
I'm positive.
Oh, no.
He recounts the Thunder God's crimes, which Thor immediately pleads guilty to.
Come on, get a lawyer.
Balder and Sif stand in the hallway, the latter crying out that it's not fair because he was only trying to protect her. Balder then dramatically claims that while Thor deals with his punishment, he will go to protect the Earth in his friend's stead. So he is not quite ready to go back to brooding in his room, clearly.
Well, he needs more distractions from his boner.
Oh yes. As Balder leaves, Sif runs into the throne room to the side of her beloved. She attempts to make her case, saying that since Thor was trying to protect her, it's really her fault that he succumbed to the madness, and therefore the punishment should be hers.
Oh boy.
Continues throwing herself under the bus for men. Thor obviously doesn't like this, but he doesn't have time to argue as Odin cuts them all off with a thunderous yell and a bolt from his scepter.
He did just attack them both.
Yeah, I don't know why he had to shoot a spell at them. I think yelling would have been enough.
Apparently not. Hey, Odin, you just hit your kid.
He didn't hit them, he just hit near them.
Oh, yes, and that's better. Punching
Yeah.
the wall is better than punching your spouse or your kids.
The All-Father would like to state, for the record, that he wishes he could be merciful, but he can't show favoritism, so Thor has to be punished. We all know that Thor is your favorite dude, but that doesn't mean he gets special treatment. If anything, he gets treated worse for it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna lean into this abusive dad analogy.
Oh yeah. It's not really an analogy so much as the reality.
You're right, it is the reality. God. So fucked.
I mean, Thor doesn't really bear the brunt of the physical abuse.
Oh, true.
But Loki does.
But he does bear the brunt of the emotional abuse.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
for sure.
Loki, in that sense, is kind of lucky that he doesn't get that particular knife twisted into him.
I disagree.
What, what, Loki would like the emotional abuse?
How did you get there?
By being disingenuous.
Okay. Well, the punishment for Thor is that he has to go alone to find Galactus, and he can't come back until he does.
So that explains the Galactus cover that I saw as you were scrolling. I'm shocked that Galactus comes back.
Yeah, it's not like Odin has been obsessing over Galactus for the past, 5 issues.
It's been the B story when it never mattered.
I think the terms of this are a little bit vague. Does he need to fight Galactus or just find him? I don't think he's smart enough to exploit that obvious loophole, but he probably wouldn't want to even if he realized he could.
Has Thor just been sent on an impossible task?
Thor and Sif embrace and exchange words of love, neither of them knowing how long it will be until they see each other again. Until then, whenever it may be, they will wait, steadfast and determined to be together. So, yeah, you're kind of right. He's been given an impossible task that could take fucking forever because basically what Odin wants him to do is fly around space looking for Galactus, which is space is infinite.
Wait.
Potentially,
wait.
So...
Hold on. Thor can teleport.
Not in this issue.
But he found him!
Well, now Stan doesn't want him to do that.
What the
So
fuck?
he can't anymore.
Stan! You can't remember Thor can teleport to forget Thor can teleport. You can't do that!
I don't know if it's that he forgot so much as that he just doesn't want him to do it right now.
But, no, I know once upon a time, Stan Lee said, when asked who would win in a fight between heroes or villains or whatever, whoever the writer wants. But this is like the dumbest leaning into whatever the writer wants. You can't have a Watsonian explanation for this when all you have is the Doyleist because the author doesn't want him to be able to teleport.
Balder arrives at the Bifrost Gate, calling out to Heimdall for permission to leave. Heimdall gives it, and then commands him to hold out his sword for the Ritual of Space, which is a thing that has never been a thing even once before.
What the hell's the Ritual of Space?
We don't get to see what this ritual entails as we cut to Karnilla and Loki watching Balder on the flat screen in the Norn Queen's lounge.
I want to see the Ritual of Space because I don't think we're ever going to see it again.
Well, yeah. Loki pours themselves a drink, which we can assume is only the latest of many, as they attempt to flirt by telling Karnilla that she's wasting her time pining for Balder, who will never be with her, when she could be getting with a certain mischief god whose name starts with Lo and ends with Key.
Also, speaking of other people who could probably find Galactus, there's a particular god who can just teleport people to places.
Yeah.
Wait. Is teleporting an everyone ability, or is that just like...
particular people.
So, Thor can do it, Heimdall can do it.
Heimdall can do it because he's in control of the Bifrost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thor doesn't actually need the Bifrost.
No, because his hammer is enchanted.
Only eventually they forget that.
Mostly.
Or choose to give him the power of the Bifrost in the hammer.
Yeah.
To make it easier.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Because otherwise it's really confusing on why Thor can do this thing.
Mm-hmm. Also, Loki can teleport and also Sif can teleport. Loki can teleport because they're a master of magic.
Uh-huh. And Sif can teleport
because that's just what she does.
Okay.
Except when Stan doesn't want her to do that because she's busy being a damsel in distress.
Oh, Stan.
Back to this nonsense. The Norn Queen turns Loki down, stating that they are too similar for her to be interested. It's Balder's goodness that she loves.
Too similar? Aren't you egotistical enough to be interested in similar?
No, I don't think so, because I think their egos would clash. So Loki just isn't her type. She also says that if she can't have Balder, no one will, which is so cliche I almost gagged.
She really does.
Loki doesn't seem hurt by this, instead noting that Balder is traveling to Earth. Karnilla summons Hag, who presents to her the clay doll that she was making earlier. Apparently, this is your standard issue magic doll. Whatever happens to the doll will also happen to Balder.
Uh-huh. I believe that's a traditional part of voodoo?
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say it, but yes.
This isn't really Norse magic?
No, not at all. The trickster looks on this with favor, thinking that it's quite clever.
And isn't even like... This is like a really bad interpretation of a voodoo practice.
Yes, quite clever indeed, as a new plot begins to unravel in their mind.
Of course it does.
Loki snatches the doll from Hag, declaring that they will use it to injure Balder, which will make Thor rush to his aid. This will lead to Loki getting Mjolnir and defeating him somehow.
Does this magic actually work on Balder, who is immortal and indestructible?
I guess they haven't thought that far yet. They gleefully strike the back of the idol like a kid beating the shit out of his sister's Barbie doll.
And apparently it works!
At the instant the doll is struck, Balder appears on Earth and immediately falls to the ground.
So, has Balder ever felt pain before?
Well, yeah, he wasn't always invulnerable. Also, I think, despite having adapted that in the Tales of Asgard, I'm not sure that Stan remembers it.
Well, Stan doesn't remember a lot of things. He forgets things he did last issue. He forgets things he did earlier in the issue, like the name of the Aerosphere. Or aerospace. What is it called? Who knows? So asking Stan to remember something he did like 20 issues ago.
Asking Stan to remember the one fucking thing that we know about Balder?
Yes, that's too much. That's far too much. We can't ask him to remember the one thing anybody knows about Balder.
Well, Baldur collapses, and a crowd gathers around to check on him as 2 cops rush to the scene and call for an ambulance.
Is he hurt really bad, or does he just act
We'll
like
see.
he's hurt really bad?
We'll see. Back on Asgard, Odin leads Thor to the ship that he had made for his time out.
Because apparently Odin needs a spaceship, because Thor needs a spaceship, because Asgardians definitely need spaceships. Oh my god, that silhouette of Odin.
Apparently, this is more than just a normal spaceship, although Odin is being rather coy about saying what it actually does, though he informs us that the ship has been imbued with his own powers in some way. He also clarifies that once Thor finds Galactus, he has to bring the World Eater back to Asgard to be judged, which I'm sure will go well and not have any problems.
Uh-huh. He's definitely not gonna, eat Asgard.
Then he asks if Thor finds his punishment cruel, to which his son immediately says no.
Because of course not. No, why would Thor think this was cruel?
No, Dad said it, so obviously it's fair.
Yes. You're not an abused child.
Still, Thor's heart is heavy, for he feels that he has failed. He asks if he may visit Earth one more time before he leaves, feeling that he may never see it again. Odin is like, yeah, I'll think about it. Anyway, check out this cool TV. I wasn't gonna go into this, because it's pretty much just a magic TV, the same as all the other ones we see in Asgard. But Odin says that you can control it with your mind, and it will immediately show you whatever you want to see, in which case, why the fuck can anyone else find Galactus? It's the only thing you've been thinking about for weeks. You've had all your royal wizards working on this shit, and you could have just made a new TV that shows you whatever you want.
Well, maybe Galactus is gone. Forever. And that's why you can't find him.
Thor points out that this all seems like it was planned far in advance, even though his trial just happened today. Odin then reveals that this would have been Thor's job even if he hadn't been punished, which is super cool on so many levels.
Hey, Odin, if you think this is a worthy punishment, and you were going to send Thor out to do this anyway, you're kind of a bastard. No wonder your wife left you. No wonder you're a single dad.
So, all of this exposition gave him enough time to mull it over, so the All-Father grants his son's wish, sending him to Earth for a short time. Upon arriving in New York City, Thor first wishes to visit the office of Dr. Donald Blake.
Oh yeah, because Odin can also teleport people. Well,
he doesn't really teleport people, he just, shoots them away.
He did just yeet Thor at Earth. And,
that's what he does.
Hopes. And it's a good thing Thor can handle being yeeted at Earth.
That's what he does, he yeets people. On the way, however, he chances to spy Baldur laying in a bed in a hospital, surrounded by befuddled doctors. They can't seem to figure out what's wrong with him, and they lament that Dr. Blake isn't available. They apparently recognize Baldur, and also remember that time Don operated on Sif, remarking that he seems to have a grasp on Asgardian physiology that they do not.
They all know what Donald Blake is, and they just won't say it out loud because they don't want anyone to...
That's what I'm fucking saying, man. They all know.
Though, I'm not sure I like this one doctor who said the female known as Sif.
Yeah.
Female.
The femoid.
The females.
Thor knows what he has to do, but Loki lurks around the corner, awaiting their chance to grab Mjolnir.
This isn't a plan, Loki! You didn't plan on Thor getting sent back at the whim of Odin! That was his whim! You could not have planned that Odin would go, okay, fine, I'll send you home for 15 minutes.
No sooner does the transformation turn Thor into Don than the mischief god leaps out to steal his cane. Loki is just very grabby this issue and doesn't know how to say please.
Wait, is this the first time Loki has tried this particular trick?
I don't think so.
Because
Loki's gotten the cane before.
Yeah, but is it the first time he's ever just decided to grab it from
just to mug Don?
Yes, to mug Donald Blake. Just mug Donald Blake. A human, a regular, ordinary human who can't defend himself.
Don clings to the stick, but his mortal strength is no match for the god of evil. They fling him away, declaring that Mjolnir is now theirs, and Don shall never turn into Thor again. Which is going to be an issue for that whole going into space to find Galactus thing.
Nah, it's fine. Just
but
take him anyway.
Loki wasn't around for that part.
Yeah, and I don't think Odin's gonna care. that Donald Blake isn't really powered.
Well, we'll see about that theory. Dr. Blake must have learned how to fight from Scott, because he immediately headbutts Loki in the dick. Unfortunately, Loki's dick is reinforced, so it doesn't do much.
What? Thou darest attack the god of evil? A pity thy strength cannot match thy presupposition.
They backhand him and then shoot out a force bolt for good measure, before leaving him supine on the hospital roof.
I'm kind of surprised he can pick up the stick.
Even up to this point, the stick has been able to pick up by anyone.
Okay.
It's just the hammer.
So
the hammer is the thing.
So
once it transforms,
anyone could have mugged Donald Blake
and taken his stick, but why would they want to? It's a stick.
Well, because if they knew the secret that it held.
How many people know that?
Loki?
Exactly.
Loki's known this for a while, probably.
Just before they take off, though, Odin appears, apparently having caught wind of these shenanigans.
Oh, no.
For once, he's not going to stand by and let his kids duke it out. But only because Thor has some important chores that he can't do in his mortal form.
Oh, no.
Loki tries to argue that they won the cane fair and square, and Odin is like, no you did not, I fucking watched you do it. He then says that whoever has Mjolnir has to go look for Galactus, which wasn't the deal before, but I suspect he's lying to make Loki drop the subject.
That's a heck of a twist.
I think it's a lie. Which they do drop immediately, and also drop the stick back by dawn, just before Odin sucks them away from this mortal coil for a solid grounding.
Wow!
He also tells them that they are not worthy to bind Thor's boots, which is a cool thing to say to your kid.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
You are not fit to bind thy brother's boots.
I fucking said.
I know, but I had to wrap my brain around what that meant first, and then...
You're not fit to tie your brother's shoes.
Yeah, I realized that. Oh, my God.
A few seconds later, Don wakes, blearily wondering what the fuck just happened. He finds his cane and reasons that Loki never would have just left it behind, so clearly Dad intervened while he was unconscious. Meanwhile, in a distant galaxy, yet another planet is destroyed as the survivors flee into the endless expanse of space.
Hey, Galactus! How you doing?
Galactus is like, I'm Galactus, and we're like, we know. The special magic TV on the spaceship back on Asgard gives a piercing wail as it shows this scene, having locked onto its intended quarry. The guards, or wizards or whatever, who are getting ready for launch, crowd around, declaring that they must summon the Thunder God. But even as they say that, Galactus speeds off to another planet, once more out of sight of the magic TV for some reason.
Because apparently magic can't find him unless he's eating. What?
I guess. I don't know. Don Blake is done operating and exits as his colleagues shower him with praise. The other two doctors wonder for a moment how he knows surgical techniques they've never even heard of before and why he's never around. Which, to me, they can't possibly be this stupid, so I can only imagine that they're saying this with the intent for Don to hear it. Just stage whispering wow, Dr. Blake is so mysterious. How can he do these things? It's certainly not because he's Thor or anything. Why would you even suggest that?
Who's Thor?
Who's Thor? I don't even know how that is. That's crazy. As Baldur lies recovering, Thor bids him a silent farewell before taking one last flight over the city. It's somewhat bittersweet, as he wonders how long it will be before he sees this place again. This place that has become a second home. Maybe he won't ever see it again, if he actually finds Galactus.
Well, hey, if he'd been on the ship, he could have said, I found Galactus. There he is.
No, because Odin stipulated he has to bring Galactus back to Asgard.
Ah, that is the problem, isn't it?
That's the rub. So we're going to move on to Thor number 168, the last of our issues, which came out in July of 1969.
Nice!
Written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, inked by George Klein.
We've changed names! Holy shit!
I didn't notice until just now, actually. Lettered by Artie Sybeck. I can look up a fact about George Klein right now, because I don't think we've encountered him yet.
George Klein.
Some facts about George Klein.
He actually has a pretty filled out Wikipedia page from the look of things.
Yeah, some facts about George Klein. He was born in 1915 or 1920.
Or! That's a big or! So that explains why the picture, they don't know when the picture is from. Oh no. And yes, he did die.
He died in 1969, 6 months after getting married. So that's a fun fact about George Klein.
So what you're saying is he did this at the very end of his life.
Yeah, so apparently he's actually better known for working on Superman comics, which is interesting. So anyway, enough about George Klein. That was kind of depressing. Anyway.
Yeah, just learning that we're watching a dying man's work.
It happens. Before we begin this issue, I would like to give a brief warning. Somewhere around the second half of the issue, we will be seeing some unflattering depictions of Asian men.
Stan!
There's also some Orientalism, because Stan apparently couldn't pick one country to be weird about this time.
Stan! We already had...
If that's something you're not looking to deal with, especially for those of you who join us on YouTube, feel free to skip ahead as necessary. They only appear for a few pages, so once we get there, just skip ahead, 10 minutes. You should be fine. The time has come to see Thor off on his mission. Odin sits in his throne room before his magic TV.
With a new hat,
providing a play-by-play commentary of his son sitting at the control panel. Riveting.
I swear, the new hat gag is, mandatory.
It is.
He even switches hats mid-issue sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, obviously. He also reminds us that this is part of Thor's punishment for his warrior madness, but as we established last issue, he would be doing it anyway, so I feel like Odin is just hamming it up to convince everyone else.
And he's also being kind of a dick to his son.
Thor's really being punished. I super duper mean it. The All-Father orders the launch, then sulks for a minute about how sad he is to send his son away, which is something that he chose to do and could very easily decide not to do.
It's bullshit. You're not sad about this. You just want Galactus. You want him for reasons.
Carnally.
Yes, carnally.
Thor is feeling melancholy, yet resolute. He must obey his father, even if it breaks his heart. Because he's a goody two-shoes.
Thor, stand up to your father. Don't do everything he wants because he wants it. Do things you want because you want it. You're not a child.
As his ship speeds on through our own solar system to worlds beyond, we zoom in on the Earth, where Baldur the Brave stands recovered from his operation. I'd like to take a small tangent to ask who is paying for these hospital visits.
No. It's free. Don't you know? Medicine in America is free.
Oh yeah, we have socialized medicine in America ever since the 60s.
Yes, obviously.
Both Sif and Baldur have now had trips to the emergency room, including invasive surgery and private rooms. And, well, I'm sure Dawn did their operations pro bono.
Oh, I know how it works. So, when Donald Blake went to college, Thor set up insurance for him. And they've been using the same insurance company ever since for all Asgardians.
Well, that answers all my questions. Moving on. No, I was actually wondering. Does Dawn have to pay for that? Or do they just bill the Avengers? Does Tony ever check the mail one day and there's a medical bill for some random Asgardian he's never heard of?
Tony Stark getting weird bills. And because at this point, I think he's still pretending not to be Iron Man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but
he's footing the bill for the Avengers.
Yes, he is. Tony Stark foots the bill for the Avengers.
Yes.
But Iron Man is
his bodyguard, yes.
Yes. The doctor discharging him remarks that no surgeon other than Donald Blake could have performed this feat of medical prowess, which Baldur knows to be true because he knows that Dawn is also Thor.
God, does that mean that random people are billing the Avengers for things that are not their fault?
Possibly. I mean, I'm sure they could take you to court for that. The doctor gives him a note that Dawn left behind, which is scrawled in some sort of illegible code. The Asgardian takes one look at the letter and knows its contents. His friend has left, and now it is up to him to guard the Earth. The unnamed doctor says something about not understanding how Dawn's handwriting can be so illegible, despite the fact that that is something you actually learn how to do in med school.
It is?
Yeah.
You actually learn how to have an illegible handwriting?
Yeah, because you know when you get a written prescription from your doctor and you can't fucking read it at all?
I mean, these days, they don't really write them out anymore.
No, but
I remember...
back in the day when they did that.
I remember once upon a time when I got written prescriptions.
Okay. I haven't fact-checked this, but I remember learning somewhere that was something they actually learned in school.
Oh no, they got taught.
That might be fake. I don't know.
Yeah,
if anyone knows about why doctors have bad handwriting, send us an email at comicsplaining@gmail.com.
We're not telling you the truth. We're telling you things that feel truthy.
Yeah, sure. I have approximate knowledge of many things.
Yes.
As Balder makes to leave, Dr. What's-His-Name informs him that he has friends in the waiting room. Friends? On Earth? He heads off in that direction, curious to see who it is. As he's walking, someone jumps around the corner, blade in hand, commanding him to defend thyself, varlet!
What?
Startled, Balder begins to draw his sword before realizing who it is. It's the Warriors 3!
Okay, he's being attacked by a friend. Good God.
Fandrel's just japing with him, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's a good thing Balder isn't that quick on the draw, because...
Well, he has a head injury.
Yeah!
They're just having a little fun and ribbing their bro, and also making everyone in this hallway piss their pants because they have swords.
Yeah, they have swords! This is probably not a good thing.
In the hospital, it's fine. It seems that Odin has sent them to Earth as well to assist Balder in his endeavors.
That's a vote of confidence, my guy.
They're all in good spirits about it, including Balder, who finds some relief in the idea of companionship. He would get lonely.
Well, he would, yes. I can imagine that.
As the four of them exit the hospital, they see some men reading the news. Yon mortals look alarmed. We must see what doth disturb them so.
Crisis in the Far East. Secret atomic blast in the Orient. Oh, no.
Volstagg marches up to the newsstand and informs the owner that he may hand him a paper. Yeah, the man fires back without missing a beat, just as soon as you hand me a dime. Well, the Lion of Asgard doesn't have any dimes, nor does he believe that he should have to pay. After all, he's here to protect mankind. A New Yorker through and through, the newsstand guy declares that no one will get a paper without paying, and smacks Volstagg with his cane. Volstagg is ready to duke it out with this old man, but Balder quickly steps between them to smooth things over. He explains that they're friends of Thor, and this apparently puts the geezer at ease. Despite his earlier proclamation, any friend of Thor's can have a paper anytime.
So I guess if you're a friend of Thor's, yeah. You can get away with this stuff.
You can get a free paper, but to be fair, it's a dime.
That was worth more than... Not as much as it was in, like, the 50s, but it was worth more.
Balder accepts graciously, stating that they only want to know what problems mankind has. To which the news guy says, you want to see problems? Just look around. Which is relatable.
Problems? You want to solve all of our problems? Good luck.
Good fucking luck. The Asgardians sense that there is danger afoot, but they know not the ways of Earth and its mortal inhabitants. Fandrel declares that it is time to learn.
Are they going to try to solve Vietnam?
But that's enough shenanigans for now, as we cut back to our hero. Stan is kind of bad about Asian people, in particular.
Yeah. I've noticed some signs of things like that.
I don't think he's trying to be, but, he still is.
I mean, you can say he's a man of his time. He didn't know, but he knew better.
Yeah.
He almost certainly knew better and just chose
not to be better.
Yeah.
Well, Well, anyway, Thor stares out into the endless vacuum of space, brooding over his sentence. He's barely set out, and already he misses what he left behind. Despondent, he reclines on a chair and begins to moodily eat an entire lemon.
I recognize that pose.
It's very reminiscent of Loki, isn't it?
His brother has taken that pose.
Well, it's the brooding pose. Suddenly and without any warning, which is redundant, the entire ship lurches as if struck. In fact, the ship has stopped suddenly and now lies motionless, a thing which should be quite impossible, given that it's propelled by the Odin force. The God of Thunder rushes to a nearby hatch to discover what has happened, but when he opens it, he finds that the entire ship is now inside of some kind of massive structure.
Maybe you should have been paying attention to where you were going.
It was on autopilot.
Yes, and you still have to watch where you're going. What next? Is your Odin Tesla gonna run over children?
In space?
You can't just set it on autopilot and forget it.
At the the same moment, back on Earth, some scientists in Asia have completed their latest project.
Oh dear, these are outfits.
Oh yeah, something called the Thermal Man, which they say will bring destruction to the free world, which I'm going to take to mean that this is a communist country, since Stan didn't bother to specify where this is happening. He didn't even say Asia, but I'm not going to repeat what he did say because I find it objectionable.
It could be Vietnam.
Could be Vietnam, it could be China, it could be
Korea. I don't know. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Within the test chamber, the radiation level is rising. The scientists watch in horror as their creation atomizes its bonds before turning his gaze on his creators. The Thermal Man lunges straight through the wall, paying no mind to gunfire as he proceeds to destroy the entire facility.
Well, that sure is a guy.
That sure is a guy. That's just the most guy.
And those character designs.
See what I was saying about the unflattering depictions of Asian men?
That's rough. Oh, God.
It's really bad.
Hey, Jack Kirby?
Yeah.
I have some notes.
Yeah.
I realize those notes have to go all the way back to 1969, but I have notes. Did you give the Thermal Man those eyes because you want them to be like Iron Man? Or did you give them...
Okay, moving on. The soldiers call for the use of a sonic shell, which is apparently being brought up already. In the meantime, they attempt to use a giant stun gun, attempting to bring the Thermal Man to heel. However, before they can fire, he hits the weapon with a thermal blast that shatters it instantly. So that's the stun gun down, but maybe the sonic shell will still work. Some dudes roll up in a sci-fi tank, stating that they've arrived just in time. The Thermal Man isn't at full power yet, so the sonic blast will still affect him. He topples to the ground when struck, and the soldiers advance, though they know they won't have long before the atomic pile in his chest revives him.
So they're all gonna die just because they're near him.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Before that happens, they mean to launch him off to the west, so that when he does awaken, his destructive powers will be unleashed on America this time.
Jesus Christ.
They use what's basically a tow truck to drag him off to a rocket, which he is then strapped to just before it takes off.
That's not really how rockets...
It's fine, it's totally fine. A few minutes later, in the skies above the west coast of the US of A pilot spies the missile coming in from across the Pacific Ocean. He wonders why they would attack with just one before ordering his comrades, who are just flying around up here, just in case a missile shows up, I guess, to blast it out of the sky. They succeed, and celebrate amongst themselves, little suspecting that the missile was not the true danger.
Butyung.
Butyung.
That's a very suspicious onomatopoeia.
The Thermal Man drops toward the earth below, blending in with the debris. The impact jars him awake as he lands in a wooded area on the coast. It feels like Thor hasn't really done anything this issue, so let's see what's going on with him. Because this other story is bad. He disembarks from the Odin ship, intent on finding out just where he is and what has happened.
It really is called the Odin ship. Of
course it is. Because
Odin can't help but put his name on everything.
He walks through the structure that has captured him, finding the architecture strange and foreign. He finds an exit, which seems to call him toward it. As he steps out of the cavernous interior and onto rocky terrain, a voice calls to him. He turns, wondering aloud who could have brought him here, who has the power to affect the mighty Odin ship, which has the very power of the Allfather. Why, it could be none other than the one that you seek, Galactus.
Galactus not even captured, just got him.
So that's it. Quest over. Now you just have to beat him in single combat and take him back to Asgard.
Or you could just ask him nicely. You could try asking Galactus nicely.
Yeah, it should be easy and fine.
You know, Galactus, known for being easy to ask to do things, and also known for being very
reasonable.
Willing and reasonable to just do stuff.
Thor feels some relief at his journey ending so soon, and he makes ready for battle. Galactus, however, doesn't want to fight.
Also, he looks really small.
Which is unfortunate. He always looks too small. Which is unfortunate because that's what Odin told his boy to do, and he always does what his daddy says without argument.
Unfortunately.
He shoots a bolt of lightning out of his hammer, which crackles harmlessly over an invisible wall that Gal put between them.
Yeah, this isn't really going to be much of a fight.
Thor feels the barrier up, while Gal pops a squat on a nearby boulder. He brought Thor here because he wanted to be found, he says.
Wow.
He is tired of running, and tired of being chased.
He's weary of the chase.
He has been alive for eons, and been alone for most of that time, which is a lot of time for introspection. He has things that he needs to say, and who better to hear than Thor?
Odin?
Gal unleashes a Vizzy cloud, which is basically just a cloud of hallucinogens that envelops Thor and sends him on the trip of a lifetime.
Ah, so you've drugged Thor. Okay, yes, I understand.
Once the Asgardian is out cold, the World Eater begins his monologue. Ages ago, when Earth was still young, there was a being called the Watcher. This isn't technically our first encounter with the Watcher, but we haven't bothered to explain yet what his whole deal is, so for anyone who may be new to comics, or maybe just hasn't encountered him yet, let's do a quick breakdown. The Watcher is a dude who is from a species of giant baby-headed aliens who are basically like the historians of the universe. For reasons that I won't get into right now, they've been charged with observing events throughout space and time and impartially recording them. Each one is assigned to a certain area, which they have to watch from afar and keep records of while never interfering or showing themselves to the locals. Now, even though the Watchers are a whole species, there's kind of a main one that you're going to be encountering most often, which is the one who observes the Earth and also the rest of our solar system.
And they have a whole spiel.
Yes. His name is Uatu, and he's very bad at his job.
Oh boy, is he ever.
He constantly shows himself to people on Earth, and even more constantly, directly interferes, such as in that issue with him, where he appeared last.
Yeah, he gives recommendations.
Like, in the current era, pretty much everyone knows about this guy, to the point where when something is going on, you know it's serious because the Watcher shows up to get a good seat.
You're not supposed to be seen!
Yeah. Anyway, the Watcher that Galactus is talking about here is our boy Uatu, though at this point in canon I don't think he has a name, so just keep that in mind going forward.
Of course.
So the Watcher was doing his thing, checking out some dinosaurs, when he suddenly witnessed a spaceship crash. He rushed to the crash site, finding the vessel mostly intact, though strangely devoid of occupants. After some searching, he finds his answer. This was a plague ship. The reason it crashed was because everyone on board had succumbed to sickness and perished.
Fun!
Thor realizes this, his mind and body racked by the visions. He seems like he's having a bad time, so Gal offers to release him from this bad trip, so long as he promises not to attack.
You know, I think Odin's big screen TVs are a better way to do this.
Right. Galactus just wants someone to understand him, and know what he's going through. Thor agrees to this, and Gal releases him from the haze. Back on Earth, the Thermal Man has found civilization. He was built only to destroy, and that's exactly what he will do, starting with this city. The city which, by sheer coincidence, currently has several Asgardians in it.
Because of course it does.
The crew has made their way to Donald Blake's apartment, where Volstagg is now making his way through all of Don's chairs. Apparently, they all instantly break under his weight, which is obviously meant to be a fat joke, but given that Thor himself weighs like 800 pounds, I'm gonna give it a pass. Hogun seems to be a bit more annoyed by this than his comrades, probably because this is Thor's shit that they're breaking, and he begs for Fandrel's help. Fandrel is currently watching TV and drinking a Coke, so he refuses.
Oh, he's having a good time.
Oh yeah. These shenanigans are cut short as the show changes to an urgent news bulletin, informing them that a monster is attacking the city. The boys get ready to do their duty, raising their weapons in a battle cry that is echoed by Volstagg as he crashes through the doorway.
Oh god!
Thor is finally coming down, though he's still laying on the ground, so he's probably not feeling great. This was only the beginning of the tale, but it's the end of the book. The rest will have to wait for next time.
The time has come for you to learn the why of Galactus.
Yeah, because that's what's really important.
Because we really care about why Galactus is the way he is.
Well, Thor's eyes are looking beautiful. So, John, what did you think of these 3 issues? Let's start with the first one, so the end of him.
The end of him. Well, him got away, and then Thor got punished.
Well, what did you think of it, though?
It did happen. It definitely did happen.
What would you rate it? Those happenings that happened.
Oh, God. I'm the worst at this. 2.5?
Okay.
I'm not invested in him. Him is kind of gross, and they keep on trying to defend what him is doing for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't like him.
Yeah, that's about where I stand. I'd give it a 2.
I mean, it could have been worse.
It could have.
The thing that would have made it worse is if Odin came out of the sky and solved the problem.
Solved the whole problem.
Yes, as he's been doing lately.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so what about the second issue with Loki?
I thought it was kind of funny that this is the first time Loki decided to mug Donald Blake. Like, in all of his time, he never thought, I could just mug him.
Yeah.
But Odin gave Thor a punishment that he was going to give him as a duty. Shitty dad thing.
There's just so many levels of shittiness to that. Like, first of all, you consider this a punishment, but you were going to give it to him for no fucking reason.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, the fact that you're now playing this up as a punishment, I don't know, it just feels...
And the third one. Okay, Thor can't do it. Loki, your job now.
Yeah, which I still feel like was just Odin saying that to get Loki to drop the hammer.
It's just lots of shitty Odin moments.
Odin cringe comp.
Yes, this is a strong Odin cringe compilation. We don't get to see him do a lot of different cringe things at the same time. Yikes, my guy. My brother in Christ, do not treat your son this way.
Sons, because Loki was there too.
Your sons.
So what would you rate that second issue?
And I'm so tired of this Galactus stuff, too. I don't know, maybe a 2?
Another 2, I agree. What about the third issue?
Oh,
where
God.
Thor was there for like a collective 4 pages, and the rest of it was other shit.
We're apparently supposed to, A, care about Galactus, like, as a person. He's not interesting as a person, people. Guys, Galactus is most interesting as a force of nature.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of it.
Most authors understand that a personified force of nature that can't be reasoned with, that can't be negotiated with, unless you're, like, a really special guy, which is what makes the Silver Surfer interesting at all, is what makes Galactus interesting.
Now, see, I kind of like this idea that Galactus is just tired of it all.
He's just a guy who just is tired of eating?
I like that. I mean, they visit that later where he becomes, like, what, the Lightbringer or what the fuck ever?
I have no idea. I'm not familiar with any of this.
Well, he becomes good later. Much later.
Must be.
I think it's very cool when they have Galactus himself actually kind of be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I also, I see the value of him just being a force of nature, but I do think that gets kind of boring and repetitive after a while.
When they do it too many times.
You run out of shit to do with that.
True, but for one thing, he's tiny. Why is he tiny?
He's always been that tiny. When we saw him before, he was that size too.
It's weird. I've usually seen him when he's the size of buildings.
Yeah, you're used to that in the modern interpretation.
You're right. I am used to that. It's weird that he's not that big.
Well, fucking Uatu also doesn't look the way that he used to look. The way that he looks now.
He's not nearly as baby-headed.
He's not. He doesn't have a giant weird head.
And a tiny body.
Right.
And a bullet in his brain.
Shush. Spoilers. So...
I don't know, but this is not a strong story.
Yeah.
Okay, the time the army fought a bunch of mutates was a stronger story than...
Okay, I honestly feel like Odin's whole Galactus obsession is just... Stan's vehicle for exploring Galactus's backstory.
But it's also the weakest part of the whole story.
Yeah.
It is because there's... Why? Why does Odin care about Galactus this much?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because
Stan cares about Galactus this much.
I would say because Galactus is extremely powerful and Odin...
Odin can't allow for something this powerful to exist in his realm.
Odin can't allow for something that could possibly challenge his power because he is a narcissist.
He is that.
He has to be the most powerful, most specialist little guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone comes even close to that, they gotta go.
And that even includes his sons.
Yeah, sometimes.
Ugh.
So what would you rate this third issue?
At Orientalism. And that,
It was a lot, yeah.
The mysterious Asian country with the
Yeah.
nuclear monster man.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's a big yikes.
Is it even worthy of a 2?
I mean, that's up to you.
Oh, I'm not into this weirdly introspective Galactus either. I'm not feeling him. I don't think he should be. Also, why does he have drugs? Why does Galactus have drugs? What the 1.5 at best.
He's forever years old. He's allowed to have drugs.
Yes, but why does he have drugs?
To drug Thor.
What? Why? Because the author wanted it to happen, but
Yeah.
that is getting repetitive.
Yeah, I know.
If the only reason, this is a problem with Stan's work, especially at this point, the only reason that things seem to happen is because the
Stan
author wanted it to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of a valid thing to say sometimes.
Yeah.
But when it's your only reason for doing anything,
when you can't find good motives in the characters, like,
right.
Okay, when Thor put on his bear shirt and started attacking him like that.
Yeah, that was actually really good characterization.
That was a motive. He had a motive to go into this rage.
Because he wanted to protect Sif.
Yes, who he had just failed to protect.
Mm-hmm.
And his rage could have blinded him to the fact that he can just teleport to wherever him is.
Yeah.
Because the problem he had is he lost. But Galactus, most of the things Odin is doing about Galactus, he doesn't seem to have a good motive for it.
Yeah.
It's just, he latched on to Galactus and he just can't get off of Galactus, and he never even tries to explain why. And it's not like he has to say it to his sons.
Right.
We had an introspective moment before where we had Odin lounging in, like, a bathrobe and thinking about Galactus, but he didn't get into the meat of why he was obsessed with this. And he could have, in thought bubbles. They're allowed to have thought bubbles.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So is that going to be a 1 from you, or?
Sure.
Okay.
This is bothering me.
And
then, you've got Balder and friends just off to stop the nuclear man.
I think Balder and the Warriors 3 were the best part of this issue, hands down.
They are.
They had some fun shenanigans. Every time they were on panel was great.
And if the issue was like 90% them, it'd be much better.
Much better, yes. If we get rid of the weird Orientalism and get rid of the whole Galactus thing.
And just make it about Balder and the Warriors 3
shenanigans.
Trying to save the world.
Trying to live on Earth.
and save the world. And they're both all doing a kind of a bad job of it because they don't know what breaks things.
I would read like 50 issues of that.
That would actually probably be a very fun comic.
It would be.
Especially the Warriors 3 and their shenanigans, and Balder just trying to pick up after them because he's a good boy.
Oh, yes. You can send us an email at comicsplaining@gmail.com. You can also check us out on social media on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter at Comicsplaining. You can find us on YouTube at Comicsplaining, where we put out like a clip show version of the episode every week.
And believe it or not, apparently saying like and subscribe actually improves metrics.
Yep. So like, subscribe, and comment, and hit that motherfucking bell.
And as long as you don't do things like swear in the first, 10?
1 minute. The first minute.
I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but YouTube's weird about those things.
Well, the more views we get and the more subscribers we get, the closer we get to being able to monetize. So if you're not able to support us in other ways, please consider doing that, because that will be very helpful. if you are able to support us in monetary ways, however, you can head on over to our Patreon, where we put out the episodes early every week, and we also have bloopers. Are you working?
I mean, I've been busy.
Okay. Well, we're supposed to have bloopers. We
do have a special.
Yes, we have a special monthly bonus episode. We've done 2 of them now, where John presents a weird, stupid, otherwise interesting comic to us.
We tried doing it without anyone presenting, and that didn't really work.
So now it's John's job.
Yay, I have a job that I definitely have the time for.
Okay, so check us out over there. If you can't subscribe, you can shoot us a few bucks on coffee. And if you can't give us any money at all, please do us a big favor and shoot us a review on your podcatcher of choice.
There are several.
We've been asking for it from day one, and no one has really done it, except for you.
I tried.
And Robin. And I just, I'm being absolutely 100% serious when I say that the most important thing that you can do for this show is leave a review, because that will help us get onto the charts.
Please
leave a review. Please. And if you leave a review, we will read it and thank you on the show. Similarly, if you leave a comment on YouTube or if you send us an email, we might also read that on the show. So, we'll open up a dialogue. Also, feel free to join our Discord. There's a link in the description of every episode. We have a channel for a comic book club kind of thing. Ripley wants you to read the issues along with us and tell us your thoughts.
Join the story!
Join in the story. Feel free to join us there. We like to talk to people. We're going to be back next week with the X-Men. Ripley will be here.
We don't know what it's about.
We don't know. We will find out.
We will.
So, we'll see you then. Wait, I forgot to say. We have 8 more episodes of Stan.
Oh, God. So this whole Galactus thing is just gonna be how Stan ends, isn't it?
No.
No, you don't. He doesn't end his big run of Thor with Galactus?
You think this Galactus arc is gonna take 25 issues?
Okay, in the modern era, yes. You're right, my sense of timing is all off because I'm thinking about the modern era.
No.
And in the modern era, a story like this could take 25 issues.
No, we have 8 more episodes of Stan, which is 3 issues per episode, so that's going to be 24 issues.
So he's going to wrap this up in, the next episode.
The next issue, yeah.
Oh, that's so sad. You could do so much more with Galactus.
Okay, well, that's it. So, bye!
Bye!